What is the greatest boxing film of all time? Rocky? Champ? The Hurricane? Many would point to Raging Bull as being the holy grail, the perfect fusion of intense realism, stylized scenes, and emotion. Famous critic Roger Ebert described it as being the most painful and heartrending portrait of jealousy in cinema, and Othello for our times. But what was the process behind this work of art? Who collaborated? What attracted them to the true story, and how were lives changed? And in some cases, saved.
Just me and Snoop, twin drop coupes, cookies the medicine.
Skywalk in the Everglades, cause I'm forever paid. Cut from a different cloth, I guess I'm a renegade. Drinking crib juice with a splash of some lemonade. We on dates and we skating like a ice capade.
Martin Scorsese had quickly become a highly respected director. Films like Mean Streets and Taxi Driver had proved his talent behind the camera. With Scorsese's newfound fame came expectations. His sick film, New York, New York, had been met with unflattering reviews and did poorly financially. His reputation had taken a huge blow. This began a spiral in Scorsese's personal life. Anxiety and depression had consumed him after the film's unfortunate failure. He found his cure in the form of cocaine. By the late 70s, Scorsese was gripped. After finishing New York, New York, I took chances. I was out of time and out of place, and also in turmoil in my own life and embracing the other world, so to speak, with a kind of attraction to the dangerous side of existence. It's got so bad that during an interview at the 1978 Cannes Film Festival, Scorsese ran out of cocaine and decided he couldn't continue. No more coke, no more interviews, he declared. While losing himself to an addiction, his longtime friend De Niro had become obsessed about a little book called Raging Bull, My Story. It had quickly become his dream to make a film about LaMotta's life. He seemed to be fascinated with the furious, yet vulnerable boxer. In 1978, filmmaker Martin Scorsese returned to New York from the Telluride Film Festival and bought some cocaine. He proceeded to take it, adding to the concoction of prescription pills and asthma medication already in his system. Scorsese collapsed. He was taken to a hospital with severe internal bleeding. The doctors told him that he was in impending danger of a brain hemorrhage. Following the New York overdose, Robert De Niro visited Scorsese in hospital. At that stage in their lives, De Niro and Scorsese were, in the latter's words, like brothers. At this point, Scorsese had realized just how far he had fallen from grace, feeling for the first time a visceral connection between him and Jake LaMotta. It was from this hospital bed that Scorsese realized that he and Robert De Niro were finally going to make their next picture. Mardik Martin, who had previously worked with Scorsese on Mean Streets, wrote the first draft of the screenplay, detailing LaMotta's life from childhood to his descent. For research, he lived with Jake LaMotta's ex-wife for a few days. Despite that, De Niro felt somewhat disappointed by how it turned out, and got Paul Schrader to rewrite it, hoping that his writing style would make a more gritty and darker script. He was right. Not only did it have a decisively darker tone, but Schrader began the story right in the middle of LaMotta's life, focusing on his rise and fall, rather than his whole life story. All this was completed in 6 rushed weeks. Schrader himself was an artist in high demand. De Niro and Scorsese together added their own contributions, working day and night from the island of St. Martin to avoid distraction. Their changes to the script allowed for the studios to finally greenlight the project. De Niro is among the most famous method actors, and his method did not disappoint with Raging Bull. He had worked with LaMotta for nearly a year, boxing some 1,000 rounds in a gym, adding 20 pounds of muscle to his 145-pound frame. He learned LaMotta's crab-like style and inflicted some serious damage on his mentor: chipped teeth, black eyes, a broken rib. Indeed, he got so good that LaMotta scheduled 3 professional bouts for him, and De Niro won 2 of them. Finding the supporting actors was a little more challenging. Eventually, Joe Pesci was cast as the brother, an excellent choice considering his acting skills and his chemistry with De Niro, even if it was essentially his second feature film. Kathy Moriarty was another newcomer to acting. In fact, De Niro discovered her when she won a beauty contest in a bar. Despite no previous acting experience, her deep, husky voice, stern facial features, and bombshell looks was a perfect formula to play LaMotta's wife. With the script completed and actors cast, one huge question was left unanswered. What would be the film's style? Legendary director Michael Powell had suggested that the film should be shot in black and white. Scorsese agreed. He thought it would give the film a distinctive look that would make it stand out from the other films of the time. Another aspect that would set the film apart was the way the fights would be shot. He He had enlisted the help of Michael Chapman, cinematographer of Taxi Driver. The two had decided to shoot the boxing sequences in the most stylish way possible, using every cinematic trick in the book. Smoke machines, precise camera movements, freeze frames, point of view shots and dramatic lighting. The more tender family scenes were to be shot in a more minimalist way to create a contrast. Chapman later referred to the fight sequences as arias. With a perfect crew came a relatively stress-free production. Towards the end, De Niro decided that instead of wearing a fat suit, he would actually gain the weight. Production of the film was then closed for 4 months, so De Niro could go on a binge-eating trip around northern Italy.
It's like a piece of charcoal, bring it over here!
When he did come back to the United States, his weight increased from 145 to 215 pounds. He was so heavy that Scorsese had to occasionally cancel filming because De Niro struggled breathing.
You fat fuck, look at you!
With the production process finally completed, all that was needed was for the film to be assembled. The film was now left in the graceful hands of another long-time collaborator and friend, Thelma Schoonmaker.
Working on Raging Bull was heaven. I mean, everything was just pure gold about that movie.
Piecing together the film was like a tapestry, with an endless amount of amazing takes. While Schoonmaker was pleased with the project, Scorsese felt differently. "I thought we were making it for ourselves," he defends. "I put everything I knew and felt into that film, and I thought it would be the end of my career. It was what I call a kamikaze way of making movies. Pour everything in, then forget all about it, and go find another way of life." Scorsese was so unsure of his film that he even considered teaching film instead of making his own. After the most tiring production process, the film was completed. Yet none of them knew what they had. A masterpiece. At the screening for the producers, Andy Albach famously walked straight up to Scorsese, shook his hand, and said 4 simple words: "You are an artist." The accomplishment of Scorsese remains remarkable. When the film was nominated for a total of 8 Oscars, including 1 for Best Director, you can only imagine Scorsese's astonished reaction.
The 5 performances this year will stand with the finest.
Raging Bull is a film which continues to inspire and touch the hearts of generations. A film which resurrected Scorsese's career, reaffirming him as a Hollywood heavyweight director. A film which kick-started the careers of Kathy Moriarty and Joe Pesci. A film which gave De Niro the chance to explore one of the most nuanced characters in his career, allowing him to reach high levels of success. Raging Bull was a blessing in disguise, a work of art that will forever be remembered. A classic.
The winner is Robert De Niro, The Raging. And the winner is Thelma Schoonmaker, The Raging Bull.
Who made that movie? That is unbelievable. It was burned into the screen.